Hello and welcome to Decision 2032. The Republicans have nominated President Ron DeSantis and Vice President Matty Parker for a second time, while the Democrats have nominated Pennsylvania Governor Sara Innamorato and her running mate Arizona Governor Marco Lopez Jr. Taking a look at Ron DeSantis' approval ratings, pretty great approval ratings heading into the night. As you can see here, he has a 54% approval rating, 43% of people disapprove, and I'm giving him a plus 9% approval across the board. Pretty big approval going into this election. And we have quite a few retiring senators here tonight. And out of the retiring Republican senators, we have Idaho Senator Russ Fulcher, Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, Montana Senator Steve Daines, and Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty. Over on the Democrat side, they have quite a bit more senators retiring. We have Illinois Senator Cherry Bustos, Louisiana Senator Mitch Landrieu, Michigan Senator Gary Peters, Minnesota Senator Tina Smith, New Hampshire Senator Ann Kuster, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, and Terry McAuliffe of Virginia. It is now 7 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Indiana, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will go on to win this state, as he will go on to win the state by around 30 percentage points over his opponent. Out of Kentucky, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner out of this state, keeping the state red again, winning it by 20 points. Out of South Carolina, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. The Innamorato campaign spent quite a time here in South Carolina to make it closer. However, DeSantis will go on to win the state by around 10 points, which is a bit lower than it typically is. Out of Vermont, Sara Innamorato will win this state. No surprise here. She goes on to win it by around 20 points. Out of Virginia, Sara Innamorato will win this solidly blue state, winning it by around 15 points over Ron DeSantis. Out of Georgia, this state has become a Democrat-leaning swing state. However, Sara Innamorato currently has quite a big lead over Ron DeSantis currently in the state of Georgia. And here is currently the electoral map. Ron DeSantis leads Sara Innamorato by 28 electoral votes to 16. Taking a look at our Senate races here, out of Kentucky Senate race, very controversial figure in politics right now. Matt Bevin will be reelected to another term in the Senate, as he will go on to defeat former governor, very popular former governor, Andy Beshear, by around 15 points, underperforming Ron DeSantis by quite a bit. A lot of people are hoping Beshear will, pull off an upset in Kentucky, but it sadly isn't happening. Bevin will get his win back from many years ago. Out of South Carolina Senate race, Eric Bolling will be reelected to another term in the Senate, defeating Baraki Sellings by around 10 percentage points, same margin as the presidential level. Out of Virginia Senate race, Eileen Filler-Corn will be elected to her first term in the United States Senate. Look at those eyes, she's ready. She will be succeeding the retiring Terry McAuliffe as she goes on to defeat Nick Freitas by 15 percentage points. Out of Georgia Senate race, John Ossoff, who did run for president earlier this year but was unsuccessful, is currently leading former Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle by quite a bit. And here is the Senate composition heading into the night. The Democrats being led by Senate Majority Leader Cory Booker, they're at 37 seats, and the Republicans being led by Senate Minority Leader John Thune at 33 seats. And before we get to the governor's races, we can make a projection that the Democrat Party will maintain a majority in the governor's associations with their current chair, Mandela Barnes, the governor of Wisconsin. As you can see here, before we even get to the night, they were going to keep it no matter what, as they're at 26 seats to the Republicans' 13. And out of Indiana's governor race, Trey Hollingsworth will be reelected to a second term as governor, defeating Christina Hale by 30 points. Out of Vermont's governor race, Molly Gray will be reelected to, I believe, a third term, going on to defeat Joshua Terenzini by 20 points. And taking a look at the governor's composition now, Democrats win 27 seats and the Republicans 14. It is now 7:30 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Ohio, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner in this state, a solidly Republican state now, as it wasn't a solid Republican state 20 years ago, but that's not the case now, as DeSantis goes on to win the state by 20 points. Out of West Virginia, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will go on to defeat Innamorato by 50 points, a massive landslide in the state of West Virginia. And out of North Carolina, currently too close to call, Sara Innamorato currently has a 16-point lead over Ron DeSantis. Out of Georgia, we can now make a call, no surprise here. Innamorato will be the projected winner in the state of Georgia, improving on Joe Kennedy's numbers from 2028. as she will go on to win the state of Georgia by 5 percentage points. Big win for Innamorato. Taking a look at the electoral map, Ron DeSantis still leads there. Innamorato 49 to 32. Still anyone's race here tonight. Now taking a look, a big win for the Republicans out of North Carolina Senate race. The Democrats had a very unpopular senator in Erica Smith, one of the most far-left senators in the Senate, especially out of North Carolina's swing state. Many seen her as one of the most vulnerable coming into it, and it seems like many were correct as Mark Walker is expected to win by big margins, defeating Erica Smith by 12 percentage points. Massive margins coming out of North Carolina here. And out of West Virginia Senate race, Pat McGeehan will win his second term, I believe, to the United States Senate, as he will go on to defeat Mark Callahan. Mark Callahan, he will go on to defeat him by a massive margin of 50%. And out of Georgia Senate race, John Ossoff will be reelected to a third term to the United States Senate as he goes on to defeat Cassie Cagle by 5 percentage points. And here's the Senate composition as of right now. Democrats still lead 38 seats to the Republicans 35. Out of West Virginia's governor race, Alex Mooney will be elected to his first term as governor, defeating Booth Goodwin, the former senator, as he will win by 45 points, underperforming both McGeehan and DeSantis. Out of North Carolina's governor race, coming back from the grave, former Congressman Madison Cawthorn is running for governor, as he is currently trailing Janet Cowell by quite a bit right now. And here are the numbers for the governor's composition. Democrats at 27 to the Republicans 15. It is now 8 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Alabama, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. No surprise here as he goes on to win the state by 20 percentage points. Out of Florida, the president's home state, he will be the projected winner here, winning it by 12 percentage points, winning Miami-Dade in the process. Out of Maine's 2nd District, Ron DeSantis will win here, no surprise. Out of Mississippi, Ron DeSantis is the projected winner, going on to win the state by around 13 percentage points. Out of Missouri, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will win this state by around 15 points. Out of Oklahoma, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will go on to win this state by around 50 percentage points. Out of Tennessee, Ron DeSantis is the projected winner. He will go on to win this state by around 20 points. Out of Washington, D.C., Sara Innamorato will win this district, no surprise here. And she will also win the district of Maine's 1st congressional district, no surprises there. Out of Maryland, Innamorato will win this blue state, winning it by about 20 points. And she will also go on to win the state of Massachusetts, winning it by also around 20 points. Ron DeSantis becoming the first Republican to win a county in Massachusetts since, I believe, Bush Sr. I could be wrong, though. I believe that was the last time a Republican won a county there on the presidential level. But on the state of Connecticut, currently too close to call. Sara Innamorato currently has a 22-point lead over the president. And out of the state of Delaware, too close to call that. She has an 18-point lead over Ron DeSantis. This is former President Joe Biden's home state. Out of Illinois, too close to call. Innamorato has a 28-point lead, I believe, over Ron DeSantis. Out of Maine, too close to call. Sara Innamorato has an 18-point lead. New Hampshire, too close to call. Innamorato leads. Out of New Jersey, too close to call. Innamorato has an 8-point lead over DeSantis. Pennsylvania, Innamorato's home state, too close to call. She has a massive lead over Ron DeSantis. However, these are numbers coming out of Philadelphia right now. Rhode Island, too close to call. Innamorato has a 22-point lead. 22. And out of North Carolina, no surprise here, as he was leading pretty big in polling, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner as he goes on to win this state by around 5 percentage points, a massive difference over his 3-point win in 2028, if I believe. It was a 3-point win. But DeSantis will go on to defeat Innamorato by 8 points. And here is the current electoral map. DeSantis at 141 to Innamorato's 57. This is a very interesting election because DeSantis has shown a very right-wing nationalistic view. But out of Alabama Senate race, John Merrill will be reelected to another term in the Senate, winning by around 20 points over Christopher England. Out of Oklahoma Senate race, Scott Pruitt will be reelected to another term in the Senate as he goes to defeat Dan Boren by 45. Out of Tennessee Senate, Manny Sethi will be elected to his first term in the Senate, defeating John Clement by 20 points. Out of Massachusetts Senate race, the 2028 nominee, Joe Kennedy III, will be reelected to the Senate, going on to defeat Sean Billette by around 25 points. Out of Delaware Senate race, too close to call, Chris Coons is currently leading Christine O'Donnell by 18 points. Out of Illinois Senate race, too close to call, Lisa Madigan is leading Erica Harold by quite a bit. I believe that's 28 points. At a Maine Senate race, too close to call, Shanna Bellows is currently leading Richard Bennett by around 18 points. At a Mississippi Senate race, too close to call, incumbent J.P. Hughes Jr. is currently leading Robert Foster by 2 points. At a New Hampshire Senate race, too close to call, Chris Pappas is currently leading incumbent governor, let me be clear, by about 7 points, it looks like. At a New Jersey Senate race, too close to call, the Senate Majority Leader Cory Booker is currently leading Congressman Thomas Kean Jr. by 8 points. This is Cory Booker's first ever competitive race. Out of Rhode Island Senate race, too close to call, Matt Brown has a 22-point lead over Alan Fung, who's sadly turned into a perennial candidate. And here's the Senate composition going forward. Democrats lead 39 to Republicans 38. Republicans are catching up. Out of Missouri's governor race, Catherine Hanaway will be elected to her first term as governor, defeating Scott Sifton by around 15 percentage points. Out of Delaware's governor race, currently too close to call, Bethany Hall Long, the incumbent governor, is currently leading Ernesto Lopez by 18 points. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, too close to call, Dan Phelps, who we all know is the guy who got beat the shit out of by Chris Sununu in 2020, has come back 12 years later to run against Corey Lewandowski, who, honestly, easy pickings, but he's currently leading by 18 points over the man. Out of North Carolina's governor race, an update here, Janet Caldwell's lead has dropped to about 14 points over Madison Cawthorn. Here's the current governor's composition. The Democrats have 27 seats to the Republicans 16. 8:30 p.m. and we now have poll closings out of the state of Arkansas. Out of Arkansas, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner here, no surprise, as he will go on to win here by around 20 percentage points over Innamorato. Out of Connecticut, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner here. We can now make several calls that we couldn't be able to make before, one of which is Connecticut, as Innamorato will win by around 7 points over Ron DeSantis. Out of Delaware, she will also go on to keep this state blue as she defeats Ron DeSantis by around 9 points. Out of Illinois, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner here, winning it by around 8 points over Ron DeSantis, as DeSantis pretty much maxed out southern Illinois and makes gains in the Chicago suburbs. Out of Rhode Island, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner. She goes on to defeat DeSantis by 9 points in this formerly blue state. Out of Maine, still too close to call, Innamorato has a 12-point lead over DeSantis. At New Hampshire, too close to call, Innamorato leads by around 6 points. At New Jersey, too close to call, Innamorato leads by around 2 points over DeSantis. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call, Innamorato has a 22-point lead now. Here is the current electoral map. DeSantis leads 147 to Sara Innamorato 87. Democrats are making a risk, as Sara Innamorato is a member of the Democrat Socialists of America, very progressive in her policies. However, she's tried to moderate on the campaign trail, despite her and Lopez being two of the most progressive governors in the country in two swing states. It'll be interesting to see if these coalitions that they've been trying to get together comes out tonight, as they've hoped. Out of Arkansas Senate race, Tom Cotton will be reelected to another term of the United States Senate as he goes on to defeat Greg Leding by 20 percentage points. Out of Delaware Senate race, Chris Coons will be reelected to the United States Senate, defeating Christine O'Donnell by 9 points. Out of Illinois Senate, Lisa Madigan will be elected to her first term of the United States Senate, defeating Erica Harold by 8 points. Out of Mississippi Senate race, another flip for the Republicans here tonight. Robert Foster will be elected to his first term in the Senate, defeating incumbent J.P. Hughes Jr. by around 8 percentage points. That's what that should say anyway. You go on to win by 8 points, flipping another seat red in the process. I think that's the second Republican flip tonight. Out of the Rhode Island Senate race, Matt Brown will be reelected to another term in the United States Senate, defeating Alan Fung by around 9 percentage points. Out of the Maine Senate race, too close to call, Shanna Bellows has a 12-point lead over Richard Bennett. New Hampshire Senate race, too close to call, Chris Pappas has a 5-point lead over Chris Sununu. Out of New Jersey Senate race, too close to call, Cory Booker has a 6-point lead over Thomas Kean Jr. Here is the current Senate composition. Democrats still lead 42 to 40. It'll be interesting to see if the Democrats maintain control tonight. Out of the Delaware governor's race, Bethany Hall Long will be reelected to another term in the will be elected to another term as governor, defeating Ernesto Lopez by 9 percentage points. And here's a shocker. At North Carolina's governor race, Madison Cawthorn will be elected as governor, defeating Janet Caldwell, despite Democrats throwing a shit ton of money at this. Cawthorn was able to make a grassroots effort because the GOP wasn't going to help him, and he will narrowly defeat Cowell by 2 percentage points, becoming governor of the state. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, too close to call. Dan Phelps has a 12-point lead over Corey Lewandowski. And the current governor's composition, governors have 28 seats to the Republicans' 17. It is now 9 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Colorado, Sara Innamorato will win this state easily, winning it by around 25 percentage points. Out of Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, she will go on to win this district handily. Out of New York, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner here, winning the state by around 13 points over Ron DeSantis. Out of Kansas, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, going on to win here by around 13 over Innamorato. Out of Louisiana, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, going on to defeat Innamorato by 15 points in the state. Out of Nebraska, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will win all districts except the first one. He will win here by around 15 points. Out of North Dakota, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, going on to defeat Sara Innamorato by around 45 points. Out of South Dakota, Ron DeSantis will win here as well, winning by around 40 points. Out of Texas, Ron DeSantis will win here at poll closing, mostly due to his running mate and Innamorato's poor suburban numbers so far in this race, as we continue to make calls, but DeSantis will go on to win Texas by around 12 percentage points, doing a lot better with Hispanics and suburban voters than he did in 2028, since Innamorato is doing relatively worse than Kennedy did. Out of Wyoming, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, going on to win this state by around 50 points. Out of Arizona, too close to call, Sara Innamorato has an 18-point lead. This is Marco Lopez Jr.'s home state, Innamorato's running mate. Out of Michigan, too close to call, Innamorato has an 18-point lead here. Out of Minnesota, too close to call, Innamorato has a 36-point lead. Out of New Mexico, too close to call, Innamorato has a 12-point lead here. Out of Wisconsin, too close to call, Innamorato only has a 2-point lead in the state. Out of New Jersey, too close to call, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner out of New Jersey. I need to start paying attention. But Innamorato will go on to win the state of New Jersey by around 3 percentage points. Out of Pennsylvania, Sara Innamorato will flip the state of Pennsylvania. Kind of expected, as she is the incumbent governor who's been elected twice. Innamorato will flip the state of Pennsylvania and making a gain for Democrats on the electoral map, winning it by around 2 percentage points over Ron DeSantis. Out of Maine, too close to call, Innamorato currently has a 2-point lead over Ron DeSantis. Out of New Hampshire, a statistical tie between the two candidates. And here is the current electoral map. Ron DeSantis has 217 electoral votes to Sara Innamorato's 158. On the electoral map, there's been one flip, and that was done by Sara Innamorato as she won her home state of Pennsylvania. Out of Colorado Senate race, Andrew Romanoff will be reelected to another term in the United States Senate, going on to defeat Owen Hill by around 25 points. Out of Louisiana Senate race, another gain, the third net gain for Republicans, as Paul Hollis will be elected to his first term in the Senate, defeating John Bellowers by around 10 percentage points, and will be succeeding Democrat Mitch Landrieu in the Senate. At Nebraska Senate race, Pete Ricketts will be reelected to another term in the United States Senate, defeating Sarah Howard by 15 points. Out of South Dakota, another gain for the Republicans, as Jason Ravensborg will defeat a relatively popular senator. However, DeSantis down ballot effects causing Brandon Johnson to lose by around 35 points. Out of Wyoming Senate race, Liz Cheney will be reelected to another term in the United States Senate, defeating Chris Rothfuss by 50 points. Out of the Kansas Senate race, too close to call, incumbent Governor Josh Savati is currently running against the former U.S. Attorney General under the DeSantis administration. He resigned in late 2031 to run for Senate, and with DeSantis' endorsement, he got the nomination. But Savati, the incumbent governor, is currently leading Kobach by 6 points. Out of Michigan Senate race, too close to call, Abdul El-Sayed is currently leading Justin Amash by 2 points. Out of Minnesota Senate race, too close to call, Keith Ellison is currently leading Karen Hoseley by around 12 points. Out of New Mexico Senate race, too close to call, Ben Ray Lujan has a 8-point lead over Kelly Fajardo. Out of Texas Senate race, too close to call, these are two bizarre fucking candidates. Christina Ramirez, one of the more unpopular senators in the country, she has an 18-point lead over Larry Kilgore, who, just do some research on this man. He is bizarre. At a New Jersey Senate race, the Senate Majority Leader is safe, as he will be the projected winner to win re-election in New Jersey, defeating Tom Keene by 3 points, his closest election yet. At a Maine Senate race currently too close to call, Shanna Bellows has a 6-point lead over Richard Bennett. At a New Hampshire Senate race too close to call, Chris Pappas has a 2-point lead over Chris Sununu. And here's the current Senate composition going forward. It is a tie between the two parties, as Democrats have 44, Republicans have 44. Could we see a tied Senate after tonight? Out of North Dakota's governor race, Kelly Armstrong will be re-elected as governor of the state of North Dakota, going on to defeat Max Schneider by around, 45 points? And out of New Hampshire's governor race, what could have been avoided by the Republicans, they couldn't avoid it because they nominated Corey Lewandowski. The Democrats are making a gain, as they will now, they now flipped New Hampshire's governor race for the first time since, I believe, 2014 is when they last had the governor's mansion, I believe. And Dan Feltz will be elected as governor of the state of New Hampshire, defeating Corey Lewandowski by 4 percentage points, definitely outperforming Chris Pappas and Sara Innamorato. And here is the governor's composition as of right now. Democrats at 29 seats, the Republicans at 18 seats. It is now 10 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Iowa, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, as he will go on to win the state by around 20 points over Innamorato. Out of Montana, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will go on to win the state by around 15 points. Out of Utah, DeSantis is the projected winner. He will go on to win the state by around 18 points. Out of Nevada, too close to call, Ron DeSantis has a massive lead over Sara Innamorato currently. Out of Minnesota, Sara Innamorato will be the projected winner. She will go on to keep the state blue, winning it by around 7 points over Ron DeSantis. Out of Wisconsin, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner. He will have a massive victory in the state of Wisconsin, winning it by around 8 points over Sara Innamorato. A huge upgrade from when he won it by, I believe, 4 points over Joe Kennedy just 4 years ago. Innamorato kind of bottoming out with white working class voters this election. Out of Arizona, too close to call, Sara Innamorato has a 12-point lead over Ron DeSantis. Out of Michigan, too close to call, Sara Innamorato has an 8-point lead as of right now. Out of New Mexico, too close to call, Innamorato has a 6-point lead. Out of Maine, too close to call, Innamorato has a 1-point lead. Out of New Hampshire, too close to call, a statistical tie. And here is the current electoral map heading into our next batch of poll closings, as DeSantis still leads 242 to 167. Out of Iowa Senate race, Joni Ernst, the number 2 Republican in the Senate right now, if I'm not mistaken, she will be re-elected to another term in the Senate, defeating Cindy Axne by around 15 points. Out of Montana Senate race, Corey Stapleton will be elected to his first term in the Senate, defeating Michael Plunkett, the former state treasurer, by 15 points. Out of Kansas Senate race, Chris Kobach will be elected to his first term in the Senate, having a narrow miss with the current governor, defeating him by around 8 points, though it's a very, very close election for a Senate race in Kansas. Out of Michigan Senate race, Justin Amash will kind of shock the world, as he will kind of beat Abdul al-Sayed like a drum, flipping this Senate seat red for Republicans, as he will destroy Syed by 8 percentage points, dominating him in the rural areas and the suburbs, and with white working class voters. It was kind of not a pretty sight to see. It really ain't. Out of Texas Senate race, Larry Kilgore, very bizarre guy, will sadly be elected to the United States Senate, which will be a gain for Republicans, as he will go on to defeat Christina Ramirez by 7 percentage points. Jesus Christ, down ballot effects suck. Out of Minnesota Senate race, too close to call, Keith Ellison will defeat Keith Ellison is currently leading Karen Hoseley by around 8 points. Out of New Mexico Senate race, too close to call, Ben Ray Lujan is currently leading by 2. Out of Maine Senate race, too close to call, Shanna Bellows leading by 2 over Richard Bennett. New Hampshire Senate race, too close to call, Chris Pappas leads by 1. Here's the current Senate makeup right now. Republicans are now leading. They need 2 more seats, or 1 in the presidency, but let's say 2 on the safe side, as The Republicans are at 49 seats to the Democrats' 44. Out of Montana's governor race, John Nockey will be reelected to another term as governor, as he will go on to defeat Casey Schreiner by 15 points. Out of Utah's governor race, DJ Henderson will be reelected as governor, going on to defeat Ben McAdams by 15 points. And here is the governor's composition going forward. Democrats at 29 seats and the Republicans at 20. It is now 11 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of California, Sara Innamorato will, not shockingly, win the state of California. And as people thought the state of California was maxed out for Democrats, the incumbent governor John Chang somehow terraformed it to become even bluer. So, yeah, Sara Innamorato is pretty much defeating DeSantis by 40 points in the state of California. Out of Hawaii, Sara Innamorato will win this state, as she will defeat DeSantis by around 20 points. Out of Washington, Innamorato is the projected winner, going on to win the state by 10. And out of Idaho, Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner, as he goes on to win the state by around 50 points. Big win here. Out of Oregon, too close to call. What the hell is on my... I don't know. Like, I see something on my screen. I don't know if you see it or not. It's in between the two and close, but anyway. Sara Innamorato is currently leading Ron DeSantis by around 18 points. Out of Nevada, Ron DeSantis will win the state of Nevada yet again, as he will go on to defeat Sara Innamorato by a massive margin of 5 percentage points. Not just a much wider victory than his victory in the state over Kennedy of just 4 years ago, but DeSantis will have a big win out of Nevada nonetheless. Out of Michigan, I mean, since Amash won by such a big margin, you would have expected DeSantis to win, but he is the projected winner out of Michigan, flipping the state red, as DeSantis will go on to win the state by around 3 percentage points, not doing as well as Amash, but still better, or still a victory nonetheless. Out of New Mexico, Sara Innamorato will keep this state blue, but narrowly though, as she wins it by around 2 points. Out of Arizona, too close to call, Innamorato is leading by around 6 points. Out of Maine, too close to call, a statistical tie. New Hampshire, too close to call, a statistical tie. And here is the current electoral map heading into our final batch of poll closings. Ron DeSantis just needs one state. That's all he needs. Just one state, and he's reelected. He's currently at 268 electoral votes. Sara Innamorato needs to win every single one of these states. The hardest one to get is going to be Alaska. The crazier things have happened. Out of Idaho Senate race, Ammon Bundy will be elected to his first term in the United States Senate, defeating Paulette Jordan by around 45 points. Out of Oregon Senate race, incumbent Governor Tina Kotek will be elected to the United States Senate, succeeding Jeff Merkley. She goes and defeat Mark Callahan by around 13 points. Her Lieutenant Governor, Tobias Reed, will most likely succeed her as governor. Out of Minnesota Senate race, Keith Ellison will be elected to his first term in the Senate. Much narrow margin than what was on the presidential level, but Ellison will defeat Hoseley by 2 points nonetheless. Out of New Mexico Senate race, Ben Ray Lujan will be reelected to another term in the Senate, defeating Kelly Fajardo by 2 points. Out of Maine Senate race, a statistical tie between the two candidates. New Hampshire Senate race, same story here. And here is the final Senate final Senate composition going before our 1 a.m. poll closings. If Ron DeSantis wins the election, Republicans have the Senate. Like, there's nothing stopping them. Like, the only thing that Democrats can hope for is if they win the final 3 seats here tonight, which is Maine, New Hampshire, and Alaska, and Republicans don't, and that Innamorato wins. So that's the way they hope for a majority to retain majority tonight, which is unlikely. But here's a silver lining, which may mean nothing. Out of the Washington governor race, incumbent Bob Ferguson will be reelected to yet another term, defeating Drew McEwen by 10 points. And here is the governor's composition, the final one, since there's no more governor races to call. Democrats have 3/5 of the governor's seats, winning 30 seats to the Republicans 20. It is now 1 a.m., the final batch of poll closings coming out of Alaska. And out of Alaska, currently too close to call, Sara Innamorato is currently leading Ron DeSantis by 12 points out of the state of Alaska, the largest state in the nation, even though it has one of the smallest populations. And here is the current electoral map, same as we did before, except Alaska's yellow now. Out of Alaska Senate race, currently too close to call, Here are the results of the first round. Dan Sullivan is at 39%, Scott Kawasaki is at 29%, Leslie McGuire is at 19%, and Bill Wylotowski, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, or is it Walakowski? I don't know. He's at 13%, and will probably bump down as we go into the second round. Most of his votes probably going to Scott Kawasaki. It is now 1:15 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of Oregon, as Sara Innamorato will win this state, keeping it blue, as she will defeat Ron DeSantis by around 12 percentage points. It is now 1:30 a.m., and we can now give you an update out of Alaska, as Dan Sullivan is now at 42%, Scott Kawasaki is at 36%, and Leslie McGuire is at 23%. Leslie McGuire will be bumped out, and her votes will be allocated to either Sullivan or Kawasaki, presumably Dan Sullivan, since she's also a Republican. It is now 1:45 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of Arizona, as Sara Innamorato will flip the state blue from 2028, mostly due to her running mate being the governor from here. Sara Innamorato will flip the state of Arizona, defeating Ron DeSantis by a very, very, very narrow margin. It is now 2 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of Alaska, as Dan Sullivan will be the projected winner out of this state, defeating Scott Kawasaki on the final ballot by 14 percentage points. Big victory for Republicans as they keep the Alaska Senate seat. And with that call, we can make a huge announcement, as Republicans will regain control of the United States Senate, defeating the Democrats, as they will have a straight-out majority. None of this tied 50-50 stuff. They don't need DeSantis to win the presidency anymore, but, I mean, either way, they've got the majority. It is now 2:15 a.m. We can now make a call. Ron DeSantis will flip the state of Maine. Big victory for DeSantis. I believe this is the first time since Bush Sr. has won, a Republican has won the state of Maine on the presidential level. DeSantis will have a very narrow victory out of the state of Maine, defeating Innamorato by a very narrow margin. And with that call, we can announce that DeSantis will be reelected as President of the United States over Sara Innamorato. He's currently at 270 electoral votes over Sara Innamorato's 261. We still got New Hampshire and Alaska left to call, both of which are leaning towards DeSantis, but we'll just have to wait and find out. And out of Maine Senate race, probably due to DeSantis' coattails, Richard Bennett will be elected as senator out of the state of Maine to his first term, defeating Shanna Bellows by a very similar narrow margin. It is now 2:30 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of New Hampshire. Ron DeSantis will also flip the state of New Hampshire. Big win for the Republicans in the DeSantis campaign, as he will defeat Sara Innamorato by a very narrow margin. And Chris Sununu, the governor of the state, now the senator-elect, will be elected to the United States Senate, defeating Chris Pappas by a wider but still narrower margin than DeSantis. It is now 3 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of Alaska. Ron DeSantis will be the projected winner here. No surprise. He will win the state by around 8 percentage points. Here is the final electoral map. Ron DeSantis wins 277 electoral votes to Sara Innamorato's 261. Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, if Innamorato and Lopez were not from swing states, they would have done terribly. But the fact of the matter is, Innamorato being from Pennsylvania helped her secure that state, and Lopez being from Arizona helped Innamorato secure that state as well. So, lucky guess of the draw, I guess, that she did so well. And here is the marginal map, as you can see here on your screen now. DeSantis currently leading 270, or I'm fucking stupid. Here's the marginal map. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me today. But as you can see on your screen here, the closest Democrat state was, of course, the state of Arizona, and the closest DeSantis state was the state of Maine. Now, taking a look at the popular vote totals, Sara Innamorato will win the popular vote by around 1.3%, probably just because of how poorly Republicans did in the most populous state in the country, that being California. So that does explain Sara Innamorato's very narrow, very, very narrow popular vote margin. And at the final Senate composition of tonight, Republicans have taken the Senate at 53 seats to the Republicans, or to the Democrats' 47 seats. They will flip 8 seats from 2026, those seats being South Dakota, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Michigan, New Hampshire, and Maine. And here's the marginal map on your screen now. The closest Republican state was the state of Maine, and the closest Democrat state was the state of Minnesota. I've already shown this. And here is the House, and we can now make call for the House majority, as Republicans will take back the House majority, as they will flip 36 House seats from 2030, where they lost the House. Kevin McCarthy will become Speaker for the, second or third time now, as he has 224 seats with the Republicans, and Catherine Clark, who is confirmed this will be her final term, as we will have a new Democrat House leader going into 2034. The Democrats currently have 211 seats. That has already been shown. And here is the governor's composition. Democrats under Mandela Barnes at 30 seats, and the Republicans over Rex Remmel at 20 seats. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Chaotic One saying peace.